class. So the first, I know I mentioned this last week, but there's a feature for finding Booleans. So I just want to actually show you guys what that looks like. So let me destroy this model really quick and look. I'm sorry, what the heck? I'm sorry. There's a feature for finding n-gons. Let me add n-gons into this model, and I will show you how to actually use that tool. I did a video on it. I saw some of you guys watched it, but I also might have mentioned this in class. So there's a tool, if you go under the mesh menu and go down to cleanup, you can use this for a few different things. If you ever need to Boolean your objects together, you can use the faces with more than 4 sides option under fixed by tessellation. You can select that and it will tessellate. It basically goes through and tessellates all the n-gons in your scene, or in whatever object you have selected. If you don't want to necessarily just triangulate half of the stuff in your scene, if you, up here under operation, if you select, instead of cleanup matching polygons, just do select matching polygons. Instead of actually going through and modifying the geometry when you click this, it'll just go through and basically select all the n-gons you have. So again, I'll keep faces with more than 4 sides checked, and I'll just hit apply, and now it's you can see that it's selected the n-gons that I added into my model. You can also, if you're so inclined, like if I were to just delete all of these edges here, add in some more n-gons. There's also options for, do I just want to do the object I have selected, or do I want to do all of the objects in my scene? So if I select all polygonal objects, and again apply this, you can see that it's highlighted the faces, the n-gons in both the band of the ring and also on the top of this gemstone. So again, super handy if you're trying to find n-gons for stuff. Anybody have questions about that? All right. There are, let's see. Okay, so there's like 2 other random things I just want to show you guys. In case you weren't aware, if you ever like know what a menu is called, but for the life of you can't find it, if you go under the help menu and just click find menu here, it'll literally bring up this box and you can type in whatever the tool is called and it will find it for you. Like there's a tool called poke face. So if I type in poke and just hit enter, it'll be like, cool, in the modeling menu here, under edit mesh, there is a tool called poke. And you can find just like a bunch of stuff like that. So, you know, type in texture, it'll show you, it'll literally go through all of the menus and show pretty much any menu option that has texture in the name. So this is super handy because I admittedly forget where tools are all the time, especially the poke faces tool. Anyone have questions on that? Cool. And then while I'm here, there is one other thing which I haven't really mentioned because it hasn't been, I guess, super relevant. But now that you're getting more into texturing, I want to show you guys just like a little bit about the Hypershade. So if you go into, you can see up here, like by your render settings, there's this little blue bubble icon. You can click on that, or you can go into, it'll pull up, here's my Hypershade. Or you can go to Windows, Rendering Editors, and Hypershade, and you can find it there as well. But you can see here that it's pretty much will display all of the materials that you have in your scene at any given time. It gives you like another little version of the attribute editor here, so like if I wanted to modify these, I could do that in the Hypershade instead of doing it in the attribute editor itself. Doesn't really matter which one you use, kind of personal preference. Nice thing is it does give you like a really big, more or less live render of theoretically how your object will display, which like sometimes it does well and sometimes it doesn't. But the feature that I find probably the most handy about the attribute editor, or the Hypershade, is you can delete unused textures. So like if you're just like working and you have like a bunch of stuff in your scene, you maybe like applied a texture and then decided to make a new texture or whatever for the object, and then you just have this extra texture floating around. So if you go to the edit menu up here, you can do delete unused nodes. And you can see that it pretty much got rid of most of the textures in that scene, because whatever it deleted wasn't actually assigned to any material. So it was just sort of like extra data or whatever, like floating around your Maya scene, that was never being used in any renders or used to texture any objects. So that's just a really good way. Like if you're happy with how stuff looks, you can just go through and do delete unused nodes, and it will just get rid of all of your extra textures in there. Any questions about that? All right. In case you want to get to that, again, it's just edit, delete unused nodes. You can do the same thing. So you can actually see, here's the materials for all the like Lamberts and other stuff that you have. It'll also show you all of your texture files in here. So, and that includes texture files like Photoshop files or PNGs, but also any in Maya textures like cloth textures, noise textures, checker textures. All of that would be displayed in here. And you can actually do the same thing there. So if you just do edit, delete unused nodes, in this case they were all used. But I know a lot of times I'm like really bad. I'll just like lazily like if you break a connection on something, there is still a reference to that file texture in your Maya scene. It's just not being used anywhere. And this just like kind of adds confusion and extra data. It'll make your Maya scene bigger. So you can just go and at some point just go delete unused nodes and it'll get rid of all the extra unmapped file textures. But yeah, Hypershade is pretty sweet. And I can go back and show you guys a little bit more about Hypershade later, but any questions for now?
Alrighty then.
Cool. So I think that's pretty much all of the weird stuff I had for that.